Judge Lehman has ruled yes on the Taylor Swift text messages.
That the judge ruled against Blake. This is a massive, massive win for Justin.
He's going to see Blake Lively's communication with Taylor Swift.
Blake Lively is officially spiraling as the judge uses Taylor Swift's private text messages to blow her court case wide open.
Whatever is in those messages, it completely has Blake Lively terrified. So terrified, in fact.
And the gag? Taylor handed them over herself. What started as a fake feminist PR stunt is now crashing down fast. And Blake has no one left to blame.
And now Judge Lehman has ruled fair game, okay?
So, I think Blake Lively will never forget. Because that's the day Judge Louis J. Lehman finally did what most of us were screaming for. He gave Justin Baldoni's legal team full access to Blake's private texts with none other than Taylor Swift. Her last defense wall, obliterated, gone, just like her credibility.
That she was fighting, and I mean Blake Lively and Ryan had been fighting tooth and nail not to allow these messages to get into the hands of Team Baldoni. And essentially they radically filed this protective order, like, no, you cannot get this.
And the internet? The internet had a field day. People literally named it I'm Not Your Dragon Day, which is hilarious if you've been keeping up with the diss track drama. But let's be real, this wasn't just a meme-worthy moment.
Here is the reason why he is ruling fair game. Scott, if we can pull up page 3 of his ruling, I think is where it is. Guys, don't mind my squint. I swear it's a light and sometimes it's hard for me to see it. Okay.
This was a full-on implosion. Blake's empire of PR stunts, fake feminist slogans, and manipulative interviews finally started burning down in real time. Twitter went wild. Lively lied again started trending alongside Dragon Day Massacre. That's how fast public sentiment flipped. You can't gaslight the entire internet and think no one's going to notice when you slip.
So you yourself, because you humble bragged the entire time about your closeness with Taylor Swift, one of your dragons, have now made her relevant. And I love that. I love that. Justice right there is sweet. It's like you grifted too close to the sun, baby girl, you know?
The funniest part? Just days earlier, Blake's team was out there doing cartwheels, parading around this so-called legal victory. Yeah, they called it a win. A win for women, no less. Because of course, when in doubt, wrap yourself in the feminist flag and hope nobody looks at the receipts.
Like Lively's team was coming out there trotting out a win for feminists. They were like, we did this for women everywhere. Blech. Literally, it made me want to throw up when I read that.
But here's the truth. They didn't want you to read. That win only applied to the defamation charges against the New York Times. Not Blake, not Ryan Reynolds, not her PR firm. And definitely not the actual meat of the case. But she spun it, of course. She danced around it in press releases like she was the Joan of Arc of fake lawsuits. And some people fell for it, briefly.
Like I said, Blake was out there doing the absolute most, claiming victory. Oh, I've been vindicated. I'm a wonderful person. Just forget about everything that you guys read. Her PR agents were so desperate to make the public believe.
But Judge Lehman wasn't buying it. When he looked at the case, he made it clear. Taylor Swift's messages with Blake were not just side gossip. They were crucial. Blake herself put Taylor into the conversation. She bragged about Taylor being emotionally supportive. She name-dropped her in filings, in interviews, on the red carpet, everywhere. So now suddenly Taylor's private texts aren't relevant? Please. You dragged your bestie into this legal mess, and now you're shocked when the court wants to check the receipts?
Whatever is in those messages, it completely has Blake Lively terrified. So terrified, in fact, that according to Scott Swift, she specifically asked Taylor Swift to delete some messages, and Taylor Swift would not have done that because she is not an idiot.
Let's be very clear, the judge didn't do this recklessly. He even acknowledged there's a PR risk here, that someone might try to leak something for clicks or narrative control. But he also pointed out the obvious. That's not a good enough reason to block legitimate discovery. There's a protective order in place. Justin's team isn't posting this stuff on Instagram, they're building a case, and Blake knows it. That's why she's spiraling.
A massive win for Justin Baldoni, as the judge has just ruled on Today, I'm Not Your Dragon Day, that Taylor Swift's texts to Blake Lively are irrelevant.
Baldoni's legal team actually wanted these texts before July 1st. Makes sense, right? They're preparing an amended complaint, they've got depositions lined up, and they need the evidence early to catch Blake in her contradictions. But of course, the judge didn't grant the early request. He said no, probably trying to give both sides some breathing room. But make no mistake, Blake's meltdown isn't avoided. It's just delayed. She's still going to have to hand those messages over, and that's the part that's eating her alive.
The requests for messages with Swift regarding the film and this action are reasonably tailored to discover information that would prove or disprove Lively's harassment and retaliation claims.
Legal analysts are already predicting this could be the turning point. If those messages show that Blake exaggerated, twisted facts, or worse, flat out lied about harassment or retaliation, then boom. Malice. And if malice is proven, Justin's team can bring back those defamation charges on appeal, which, let's be real, they probably should. Because everything about this situation reeks of manipulation and narrative engineering. But wait, it gets better. Remember that ridiculous PR move Blake pulled on June 10th? Where she posted that smug, "I have been vindicated" crap all over her social media and had her publicists flooding feminist blogs with headlines like, "Blake Lively wins for all women"? Yeah, that didn't age well, because the truth is, only the New York Times part of the lawsuit was dropped. Not her, not Ryan, not Vision PR, but she spun that partial dismissal into a full-blown redemption arc. Like she's the face of bravery and justice. It's actually laughable. Even Candace Owens jumped in and shredded that narrative to pieces. She broke it down. The NYT got out because of CIA protection. Yes, you heard that right. The CIA has historically been tied to the New York Times going back to Operation Mockingbird. So, the court didn't clear them because they were innocent. It cleared them because no one wins against state-sponsored propaganda outlets. That has nothing to do with Blake being innocent. Nothing. But Blake tried to piggyback off that like she'd just been handed the Nobel Prize.
The best way to think about this case is that the Justin Baldoni hit piece originated from the CIA-protected New York Times. So on June 10th, I wasn't shocked when Judge Lehman did what always happens in these matters pertaining to the New York Times/CIA lawsuits. He entirely dismissed the lawsuit against the New York Times, and then he necessarily had to dismiss any of the repeated claims that were in Blake Lively's filings.
And guess what? The media's done playing along. Cosmopolitan, Deadline, and Marie Claire all came out swinging, calling her celebration premature and misleading. Even Marie Claire, who used to treat Blake like a Hollywood princess, published a piece saying Taylor Swift is furious and believes Blake used her for clout. And that dragon message? It got leaked.
That's the most important thing of all of this, because I hear all the time people say, Justin dragged her into this. No, I think Blake did, and starting with that dragon text. Calling her, little monster.
Yeah, the one where Blake literally calls Taylor her dragon, like she's some magical bodyguard who's supposed to save her from every consequence. Who does that? Who weaponizes friendship like that in legal filings? Blake Lively does. That's who. She used feminism like a smokescreen. She used Taylor Swift like a shield. She used PR firms to push half-truths and mislead people into thinking she was some kind of victim. But now, that mask is slipping. Hard. And underneath, it's not a feminist icon. It's a bitter, calculating opportunist who thought she could fake her way through a $400 million lawsuit by pretending to be a martyr.
And she would not have deleted them. She would have shown them to a lawyer, showed it to a PR, showed it to Daddy Swift, and they would have said, hold on, when somebody is asking you to commit a crime, you don't.
And if you still think she's got this under control, just wait. Because when those texts drop, when Baldoni's team lines them up next to her legal filings, her interviews, her public statements, it's game over. The public isn't stupid, and the courts aren't blind. This isn't about cancel culture. This is about truth. And finally, for once, it looks like Blake Lively's not going to be able to buy, spin, or tweet her way out of it. She's cooked. She just doesn't know how burnt she is yet.
Blake did all of that, and that's why Taylor's not supporting her anymore.
You know what's funny? Blake Lively fought harder to hide those text messages than she ever did to prove she was actually harassed. She went to war just to stop anyone from seeing her private chats with Taylor Swift. The same Taylor she was so proud to flaunt all over her fake feminist PR tour. The second the court got too close, Blake started flinging protective orders like confetti.
But from everything that we're seeing, it's becoming clearer and clearer that Taylor Swift is crying out to the world, no, I am not your dragon.
She even got Taylor's legal team involved to try and stop the bleeding. But here's the thing. When you're innocent, you don't fight this hard to hide evidence. You wave it in everyone's face and scream, I told you so. But Blake, she ran.
This could be very interesting. This is kind of a trap for Blake Lively, if you ask me.
Why? Because she's terrified. She's not scared of losing the case, she's scared of being exposed. Rumors have already been swirling that Scott Swift, yes, Taylor's father, has quietly handed over specific dates and topics of the texts Blake is hiding. According to sources, Blake begged Taylor to delete messages. Just imagine that. 1 second you're calling someone your dragon, the next you're low-key begging them to commit obstruction of justice for you. Like, that's not friendship, that's criminal desperation. And the worst part? Taylor didn't even bite. Because unlike Blake, Taylor actually has a brain and a brand worth protecting.
The alleged that came in allegedly from Taylor Swift's own father is where the source declares.
Now, if even one of those texts shows Blake trying to get Taylor to delete evidence, that's not just a bad look. That's criminal liability. That's obstruction. That's tampering. And that's also the golden ticket Justin Baldoni's legal team needs to revive those defamation and extortion charges on appeal. And believe me, they will. She's not just looking at public embarrassment, she's potentially looking at felony exposure. And honestly, she deserves it. This woman built a harassment narrative like it was a Netflix script and expected no one to ask for behind-the-scenes receipts.
The judge approved that this evidence is important to the case, and he said to Blake Lively, you have to show the texts and the communication with Taylor Swift that you have regarding everything It Ends With Us related stuff.
Even if there's no deletion, the content of those messages alone could still ruin her. Because if Taylor's texts contradict what Blake said in interviews, press tours, and court filings, then her whole claim looks like one giant PR stunt. A stunt designed to sabotage Justin and take control of It Ends With Us. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about workplace culture. This was about ownership and power. And Blake tried to manipulate her way into both. It's so ironic, right? Her own loud mouth, her bragging, her interviews, her social media made the Taylor texts legally admissible in the first place. Justin didn't drag Taylor into this. Blake did, loudly, repeatedly, and now it's biting her right in her over-glorified Hollywood ego.
But Blake Lively was lying during the whole PR tour, saying that Taylor Swift was with her the entire time. If they didn't have any communication about It Ends With Us.
But wait, it gets even murkier. Let's talk about Judge Louis J. Lehman, the guy running this whole circus. Turns out, his brother Noah Lehman is tied to a company called Graywave Consulting LLC. And wouldn't you know it, Graywave's been quietly receiving consulting payments during this litigation, and they just so happen to be linked to Blake's PR machine. You can't make this stuff up. This is like trying to sue your neighbor while their cousin is the judge. Conflict of interest much? And yeah, people noticed. There were calls for Judge Lehman to recuse himself, but he didn't budge. He stayed on like nothing was wrong. But then, boom, this Taylor Swift text ruling comes out. And it smells like a judge trying to do damage control. Like maybe, just maybe, he's trying to look neutral now after the backlash. After all, this is the same judge who dismissed the defamation charges against the CIA-protected New York Times, but then approved discovery into Blake's texts the moment the heat hit. Feels like someone's trying to save face.
So everything the judge just did, in my view, was to protect the CIA.
Legal experts are already whispering about this. They're watching the timing, the optics, and if more connections between Judge Lehman and Blake's team come out, especially financial ones, this could spiral into a full-blown judicial misconduct investigation. And let's be honest, at this point, Blake's entire case is hanging on duct tape and delusion. One ethics violation, and the whole thing unravels. But just when you thought it couldn't get more corrupt, enter Dr. Leslie Dobson, Blake's unofficial mouthpiece and professional rumor factory. This woman actually sent fake HR complaints to YouTubers and journalists, claiming they were from Sony. Yes, Sony. She literally forged HR complaints to make it look like Justin Baldoni had a history of AAA allegations back in college. No evidence, no victims. Just pure, malicious fiction designed to assassinate someone's character. Donna Bowling, who runs Daily Dose of Donna, came forward saying Dobson sent her one of these bogus letters. Even claimed she got it from Sony. Only problem? It was completely fabricated. And here's where it gets legally dangerous. Dobson's name reportedly shows up in sealed court filings, and Justin's team is now demanding to see every communication Blake's team had with her. If there's any connection between Blake's legal circle and Dobson's smear campaign, this isn't just shady, it's fraud. It's intentional character assassination, and it could lead to real sanctions for Blake and her legal team.
The judge finally did something in favor of Justin Baldoni. We are going to see, or maybe not we, but at least Justin Baldoni's lawyer and his team is going to see Blake Lively's communication with Taylor Swift.
And honestly, at this point, are we even surprised? Blake Lively's team hasn't been arguing in court. They've been manufacturing a media war. They've relied on leaks, lies, and lunatics to try and drown Justin in public opinion. But now, those same tactics are backfiring. Dr. Dobson's lies are getting exposed. Fake HR complaints are now evidence. And the more they dig, the more they find Blake's camp built this entire case on misinformation, not facts. And now the walls are closing in. Fast. Blake is out of stunts, out of distractions, and the only thing left to uncover is the truth, which, judging by how hard she fought to bury it, isn't going to paint her in a very heroic light. The Blake Lively brand was built on image, curated, filtered, and carefully posed. But now we're seeing what happens when that image gets stripped away. When there's no publicist in the courtroom, no Vogue photo shoot to soften the headlines, just evidence, just facts. And the truth? It's brutal.
Blake Lively wanted the rights to the movie, and she was extorting them, saying that you give me what I want or I will go public with claims of sexual harassment, allegedly.
This isn't a smear campaign against Blake. She did that to herself by lying, by weaponizing Taylor Swift, by faking legal wins and treating the courtroom like a PR runway. She thought she was untouchable. She thought everyone would keep buying the fantasy. But now she's trapped in her own illusion. And guess what? Reality doesn't care how well you posed for Instagram. So, we all knew Blake Lively was shameless, but threatening Taylor Swift? That's a new level of unhinged. According to multiple insiders, Blake didn't just casually mention her private texts with Taylor. She allegedly threatened to leak them unless Taylor came out publicly and supported her harassment claims against Justin Baldoni. Yes, that's right. Blake tried to blackmail Taylor freaking Swift. This isn't a rom-com anymore, Blake. This is criminal coercion with a side of desperation. What makes it even more pathetic is that she really thought Taylor would cave. But Taylor's not some clueless extra in your fake feminist fantasy. She's a billion-dollar brand, a mastermind, and apparently the only adult in this whole circus. Taylor's team, led by her father, Scott Swift, and her lawyers, told her absolutely not. No way was Taylor going to stand up on a soapbox and defend Blake's lies just to protect their crumbling friendship. And now we've reached the final boss level, June 23, 2025. The day Justin Baldoni's amended complaint is scheduled to drop. But this isn't just a revised document. This thing is loaded. It now includes Taylor Swift's texts, backed by a court ruling and a giant green light from Judge Lehman. It's the moment Blake feared most. The moment her narrative isn't just questioned, it's disproven. In black and white, with timestamps. And this isn't just about public image anymore. Blake's legal team is staring down potential sanctions. If it turns out she perjured herself, blackmailed a witness, or coordinated a misinformation campaign, they're looking at new charges. Not just fines, not just bad press, actual legal repercussions. That's what happens when you turn your ego into a legal strategy. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift is doing what she does best, silently annihilating her enemies. She hasn't made a single statement. She hasn't thrown shade. She hasn't done an interview. All she did was authorize her lawyers to follow the law and cooperate with the court. And that was enough to start Blake's free fall. And if that wasn't enough humiliation, let's not forget the cherry on top, the diss track. I'm Not Your Dragon has officially gone viral. Written from Taylor's and Justin's perspective, it's become the soundtrack to Blake Lively's downfall. It's catchy, it's cutting.
It started with us, it ended with you. So many chapters that I didn't choose.
And it's being blasted by fans who are done with Blake's fake feminist charade. This isn't just a song, it's a pop culture tombstone, and Blake's name is etched on it in glitter and shame.
You said I was safe, that I could be true, but all that was lies, was all about you. I promised me never with teeth.
Now think about that. Blake tried to weaponize Taylor Swift. She tried to turn a friendship into legal armor. Instead, she ended up the villain in a viral revenge anthem. There's no PR team in the world that can spin that. And let's not ignore the obvious. In the court of law and the court of public opinion, Blake Lively is getting cooked. Every week, more evidence comes out. Every article gets less flattering. Every narrative she tried to control is slipping through her fingers. And the fire? It's just getting started. She lit the match herself. Now she gets to burn with it. Blake played with fire. Now she's burning in her own spotlight. And this time, not even Ryan Reynolds can save her.